You are holding a lie in your hand. Every time you reach into your pocket, every time you glance at a jar of loose change, you are participating in a multi-million-dollar game of hide and seek where the stakes are higher than the average annual salary. Most people see a penny and think of a fraction of a cent. They see a copper-colored disc and think it's worthless. They are wrong. In 1944, the United States Mint was supposed to be finished with steel. The experimental zinc-coated steel cents of 1943 were a failure, a wartime necessity that the public hated. By 1944, the mint transitioned back to copper, or more specifically, a bronze alloy, derived from spent shell casings from the front lines of World War II. But in the chaos of a global conflict, mistakes were made. Secret, heavy, magnetic mistakes. A few stray steel planchets from 1943 were left in the hopper bins. They were struck with the 1944 date. These coins shouldn't exist. They are ghosts in the machinery of the American economy. One of these impossible coins recently sold for over $100,000. Others have cleared $180,000. This isn't a hobby. This is high-stakes numismatic hunting. And right now, I am going to give you the technical blueprint to identify the 1944 steel penny era before you accidentally spend a fortune on a pack of gum. Think about the sheer volume of coins moving through the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints in 1944. We are talking about billions of strikes. The pressure to produce was immense. The logistics were a nightmare. In that environment, a few leftover steel blanks from the previous year's production didn't just sit there. They became legends. If you find a 1944 penny that looks silver, your heart probably skips a beat. But here is the brutal reality. 99% of what you find is a fake. It's a standard copper penny that someone plated in chrome or zinc in a high school chemistry lab. To the untrained eye, it looks like a jackpot. To a professional numismatist, it's junk. But you aren't going to be an amateur. You are going to look for the specific gravity, the magnetic signature, and the strike quality that defines a genuine 1944 steel error. The first thing you must understand is the metallurgy. A genuine 1944 steel cent is composed of a low-carbon steel core with a thin coating of zinc. It's light, it's brittle. It has a specific weight of 2.7 grams. If you put your penny on a jeweler's scale and it reads 3.11 grams, you don't have an error. You have a plated copper cent. It's a paperweight, but weight is only the first gate. If the weight is 2.7 grams, you've passed the first test. Now we move to the magnet. This is the simplest, most effective pattern interrupt for any fake. A genuine 1944 steel penny is strongly magnetic. It will jump to a magnet. If it doesn't, it's likely made of a non-magnetic alloy like silver, or, more commonly, it's just a clever counterfeit. But wait, it gets crazier. There are people out there who have found these coins in the most mundane places. We're talking about estate sales, old cigar boxes, and even the take a penny, leave a penny trays at gas stations. The reason they remain hidden is that people assume they are just dirty 1943 pennies. They see the silver color, they see the date starts with 194, and they stop looking. They miss the fourth digit. That fourth digit is the difference between a 5-cent coin and a 6-figure asset. If you've followed the logic this far, you're clearly part of the 1% who actually understands how this market functions. You aren't looking for shiny things. You're looking for technical anomalies. Hit the like button right now to certify your spot in that circle of elite hunters who know that data beats luck every single time. Let's talk about the mint marks. This is where the technical VAM or attribution style knowledge becomes critical. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark in 1944. If your penny has no letter under the date, it's a P. These are the most common of the errors, with roughly 30 known examples. But if you see a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, you are looking at a rarity that defies logic. The 1944 steel cent is one of the holy grails of numismatics. Only 2 are confirmed to exist. Think about that too, in a world of 8 billion people. When one of these hits the auction block at Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, the room goes silent. The bidding doesn't start in the hundreds, it starts in the tens of thousands. Why is the S so rare? Because the San Francisco Mint was notoriously strict with their bin cleanouts. For a steel planchet to survive the transition from 1943 to 1944 in San Francisco, it had to be wedged in a corner of a hopper that was moved, shaken, and refilled thousands of times. It's a statistical impossibility that actually happened. When you look at the S mint mark on a genuine 1944 steely, you need to look at the serif. Is it sharp? Is it positioned correctly? Counterfeiters will often glue an S onto a Philadelphia coin. This is why we look at the coin under 40x magnification. We look for the seam. We look for the flow lines of the metal. When a coin is struck under 60 tons of pressure, the metal flows outward from the center. If that mint mark was added later, those flow lines will be interrupted. A genuine error is a single, cohesive piece of history. A fake is a Frankenstein's monster. Now let's dive into the slabbed and certified world. If you think you've found the 1944 steel secret, do not under any circumstances clean it. I want to hear from you in the comments right now. Have you ever made the mistake of cleaning an old coin? Tell me the truth, because it's a mistake that has cost people thousands of dollars. Cleaning a coin removes the original skin or the luster. In the eyes of PCGs or NGC, the two premier grading services, a cleaned coin is a detailed coin. It loses its grade. It loses its mint state status. A 1944 steel penny in Ms. 63. Mint state 63 is worth significantly more than one in 058, about uncirculated 58. The difference of a few microscopic scratches is the difference between a new car and a new house. To understand the value, you have to understand the Sheldon scale. It goes from 1 to 70. A 70 is perfection. For a 1944 steel penny, perfection is impossible. These coins were made of steel. They rust. They oxidize. They were tossed into canvas bags with thousands of other coins. They have bag marks. If you find a 1944 steel cent that looks brand new, with a bluish-gray satin luster and no signs of rust, you are looking at a museum-grade specimen. This is where the intrinsics of the coin come into play. The strike must be full. Look at the wheat ears on the reverse. Are the lines sharp? Look at the L in Liberty. Is it crisp against the rim? The 1944 steel cent was often struck with dies that were beginning to wear out because the mint was pushing them to their absolute limit. A weak strike is common, but a full strike on a steel planchet is a miracle of physics. Let's talk about the 1-9 for 3 copper connection, because you cannot understand the 1944 steel error without its brother. In 1943, the mint was supposed to make steel pennies, but a few copper planchets were left in the bins. Those are the most famous coins in the world. The 1944 steel cent is the inverse. It is the mirror error. While the 1943 copper gets all the headlines in the mainstream news, the 1944 steel is the insider's coin. It's the one that technical collectors hunt for because it represents the final gasp of the wartime steel era. It's a transition piece. It shouldn't be there, yet it is. But here is where the story takes a dark turn. Because these coins are so valuable, the market is flooded with deceptive fakes. Some are so good they can fool a local coin shop owner. They use Van Vanderhoof malice-style analysis on Morgan dollars. But for pennies, we look at the attribution. We look at the date position. On a genuine 1944, the 4s have a specific shape. The vertical bar of the 4 should have a certain thickness. The gap between the 4 seconds must be exact. If you see a 1944 where the second 4 looks slightly tilted or has a different relief height than the first 4, you are looking at a ray-engraved date. Someone took a 1943 steel penny and carved the 3 into a 4. It happens more often than you think. This is why you need a high-powered loop and a steady hand. You are looking for the tool marks, tiny scratches left by a graver's tool. The psychology of why we value these errors is fascinating. It's about the break in the pattern. The US Mint is one of the most efficient manufacturing operations on the planet. They produce billions of units with a near-zero defect rate. When a defect occurs, it's a violation of the system. It's a glitch in the matrix. Collectors aren't just buying metal. They are buying a documented failure of the government's quality control. That failure is rare, and in numismatics, rarity equals power. If you own a 1944 steel cent, you own a piece of World War II history that was never meant to survive the war. If you're still watching this, it means you have the patience required for this hunt. Most people have already clicked away to watch a cat video. They don't have the discipline to look through a 5-gallon bucket of pennies with a magnet and a scale, but you do. And that's why you're the one who's going to find it. The algorithm needs to know that this kind of deep dive technical knowledge is what people actually want. Comment steeled below to show the system that we value truth over clickbait. It's the only way to keep these high-level insights coming. Let's get back to the technical data points. Suppose you find a coin that passes the magnet test and the weight test. What's next? You have to look at the rim. On a genuine 1944 steel penny, the rim is usually quite sharp. Steel is harder than copper. It requires more pressure to strike. This extra pressure often results in a wire rim, a thin, raised edge where the metal was forced into the gap between the die and the collar. Copper pennies rarely have this. If your 1944 penny has a soft, rounded rim, it's a bad sign. You want to see that sharp, industrial edge. You also want to look for die cracks. Because steel is so hard, it shattered the dies faster than copper did. A 1944 steel penny with a known die crack is actually easier to authenticate because we can map that crack to other known genuine examples. It's like a fingerprint. We also have to consider the planchet flaws. Sometimes the zinc coating on the steel wasn't perfect. You might see tiny bubbles or laminations where the metal is peeling back. In most coins, this is a defect that lowers the value. In a 1944 steel error, it's often proof of authenticity. It shows the metal was behaving. Exactly how wartime steel was supposed to behave. It wasn't the high-quality, smooth steel we use today. It was rough. It was dirty steel. Now let's talk about the hidden wealth aspect. Why is this in your pocket change? Because for decades, these coins were just coins. In the 1950s and 60s, a 1944 steel penny might have been pulled out of circulation by a kid, looked at for a second, and then tossed back because it looked weird. It could have sat in a jar for 40 years. It could have been rolled up in a paper wrapper. And sitting in a bank vault right now, the elite collections already have their specimens. The coins that are going to make the next generation of wealthy collectors are the ones that are still in the wild. They are in the unsearched rolls you see on eBay, though be careful. Most of those are seeded with junk. The real finds come from the source, the change in your pocket, the floors of old cars, and the back of junk drawers. To be a successful hunter, you need to understand the mintage figures. In 1944, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.4 billion pennies. Denver produced 430 million. San Francisco produced 282 million. Out of those 2 billion coins, we estimate fewer than 50 steel errors exist across all mints. Those are odds of 1 in 40 million. It sounds impossible until you realize that someone has to win the lottery. And unlike the lottery, you don't have to buy a ticket, you just have to look. The technical term for what you are looking for is an off-metal strike. This is different from a double die or a clipped planchet. An off-metal strike is a fundamental error of material. It's when the wrong planchet, the blank metal disc, is fed into the press. In 1944, the presses were set for bronze, when a steel planchet, which is harder and thinner, fell into the chamber. The dies hit it with the force intended for bronze. This often results in a weak detail in the center of the coin, like Lincoln's coat or the 0-1. If your coin has incredibly sharp details in the center but passes all the other tests, be suspicious. The physics of the strike should match the material. Let's talk about the market manipulation in the coin world. You will see 1944 steel pennies listed on Etsy or eBay for $10,000, $50,000, even $100,000. Do not buy them. Those are almost certainly fakes. A real 1944 steel era will almost always be slabbed or certified by PCGs or NGC. If a seller has a coin that is supposedly worth $100,000, but they haven't spent the $150 to get it certified and graded, they are lying to you. No one leaves that much money on the table. Certification is the title to the car, it's the deed to the house. Without it, you're just buying a story. And in numismatics, stories are free. It's the metal that costs you. If you ever find a coin that you are 99% sure is the real deal, your first step isn't to sell it, it's to preserve it. Place it in a non-PVC flip or a hard plastic protector. Do not touch the surface with your fingers. The oils in your skin contain acids that can eat into the zinc coating and cause fingerprint corrosion. This is a permanent chemical change that will slash the coin's value by half instantly. Use cotton gloves or plastic tweezers with rubber tips. Treat it like a radioactive isotope. The 1944 steel penny is more than just an era. It's a symbol of a nation in transition. It's a relic of a time when the entire country was focused on a single goal, and even the smallest unit of currency was drafted into the war effort. The 1943 steel cents were made to save copper for shell casings and radio wire. By 1944, the tide of the war was turning, and the copper was returning to the coins, but those few stray steel planchets stayed behind, like soldiers who didn't get the memo that the mission was over. They are survivors. As we wrap up this deep dive into the $100,000 secret, I want you to remember the 3 pillars of numismatic truth: weight, magnetism, and luster. If a coin fails even one of these, it's not the error. But if it passes all 3, you aren't just holding a penny, you're holding a miracle. You're holding a mistake that the US government tried to prevent but couldn't. You're holding a piece of history that most people will never even see in a museum, let alone in their own hands. The hunt for the 1944 steel penny is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires an eye for detail, a basic understanding of metallurgy, and the persistence to keep looking when everyone else has given up. The wealth is there. It's circulating in the hands of people who don't know what they have. It's sitting in the dark, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to bring it into the light. You have that knowledge now. You know about the 2.7 grams. You know about the magnetic pull. You know about the S-mint mark rarity and the P-mint mark frequency. You know about the dangers of cleaning and the necessity of certification. You are no longer an observer. In the world of finance, you are a participant. Go through your change tonight, check the jars, check the old piggy banks, because somewhere out there a 1944 steel penny is waiting to be found, and when you find it, you'll know exactly what to do. The secret is out. The question is, are you the one who's going to capitalize on it? The numbers don't lie, the history is documented, the value is proven. All that's left is the discovery. Keep your eyes open, keep your magnet ready, and never underestimate the power of a single impossible cent.